We'd like to give a special welcome today, of course, to our initiates, Mayuri Gandharvika, Omika, and Gopika. Please welcome them, give them a big round of applause. After all, they're the future of our movement, isn't it? Our youngsters, our young ones. So we're really, really proud of them that at this relatively young age, they're embracing this serious vows and willingness to accept a spiritual master, a guide, and serve him and serve our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, in setting a good example to the world, and also in their own ways throughout their lives, helping to spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. It gives me great assurance. You know, we're the older generation, and we're passing the baton on to the younger generation. And we see devotees like this, very young, relatively young. It gives me great faith that things will go on. So thank you, girls, very much. Yes. Well, preparing for this address, this lecture, I came across 4 verses which I feel perfectly explain the strong devotional inclinations that I've seen in these 3 young girls that actually inspired their authorities, whoever they may be, my respects to the authorities, to recommend them for initiation into our illustrious Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava Sampradaya at such a young age. These verses are well known, they're often quoted, but one of the arts of preaching, if you could say like that, is to call upon the right verse at the right time. And if you want to learn to do that, just listen to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's lectures. This was one thing that convinced me about this authorized process of Krishna consciousness, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that whatever Prabhupada said, he would back it up with a verse. And he did say one time that when speaking in learned circles, one should be able to refer to a verse to give it authority. So at this moment, I feel that I'm calling upon these verses from our illustrious Bhagavad Gita, tel quel est, as we say in French, as it is, to support what I see is happening in the lives of these young girls. It's from chapter 6. I'll just quote one verse and we'll recite the others. Prapipunya kritam lokan utsiva shashvatai shama suchinam shrimatam gehe yoga rashtrabhidayate. It's on the tongues of some of you. I can see Kripa Moyes. It's in his heart. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of pious living entities, is then born into a family of righteous people, or into a family of rich aristocracy. Or he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. On taking such a birth, he, or in our case, she's, receives the divine knowledge of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, and I'll repeat that, by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands above always the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So there's 4 verses. I didn't quote the Sanskrit for time-wise, but I think the key words that I found were in verse 43. Tattatam buddhi samyogam labate porava dehikam. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he again takes up spiritual life. In other words, a devotee, if he doesn't achieve success, he's born It's a family of rich aristocracy, so he doesn't have to struggle to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. That's all taken care of, and he can focus on his sadhana, his practices of spiritual life, and achieve perfection. But even better yet is to be born in a family of transcendentalists who wake up early, have Mangalarti, water the tulsi plant, relish the Srimad Bhagavatam, chant japa, take prasad, and then go to work or go to school. That's very rare. But that's happening in this glorious International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So this carryover of devotion from a previous life, this is also confirmed, not only in Bhagavad Gita, but it's confirmed in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 2:16. Praktan yakutini chasti yasya sad bhakti vashanan esha bhakti rasabetas tasyaiva hridi jayate. This is Sri Rupa Goswami speaking to us. The experience of bhakti rasa occurs in the heart of that individual who has bhakti vashana, auspicious impressions of bhakti from previous lives, as well as in this life. It's very clear. The experience of bhakti rasa, the taste for devotional activities, worshipping the deity, chanting, associating with devotees, occurs in the heart of that individual who has bhakti vashana, auspicious impressions of bhakti from two things: previous lives, and by coming to this temple in Tawaku and associating with devotees. A present day or a more recent example, because it's always good to show examples. We have a philosophical concept, but then we have the example. We have the Bhagavatam, we have the person Bhagavatam, like Srila Prabhupada. So it's good to have examples. So a present day example of bhakti vashana. And I'm speaking specifically about being a devotee before and then continuing in this lifetime, was given by Srila Prabhupada in 1971. I was a new devotee, actually just a brand new devotee, and Prabhupada visited our Detroit, Michigan temple for the first time. And it was a very intense moment for me. It's the first time I saw Prabhupada. He's walking through the door, and I'm following him. And as he entered our center, to like a rousing kirtan, like none other. Those were special kirtans. And he began walking to the temple room. He passed by my godsister, Krishna Bhamani, Dasi, Krishna Bhamani, who was holding her, I think you could say safely, 18-month, year-and-a-half-year-old son. They can hold kartals, right? And his name was Vaishnav Das. She was holding him in her arms. And Prabhupada walked by and he saw this boy. Even I was surprised. Little boy. He's playing the kartals like a pro. Probably not the best word, but as a devotee. So Prabhupada stopped. He actually stopped. There were hundreds of devotees. Prabhupada stopped. I just looked at Vaishnav Das and he nodded his head. I was thinking, I wish Prabhupada would nod his head at me. But the qualification was this is a young boy playing kartals. So nice. Then Prabhupada went and he sat on the Vyasasana, and the first thing he said, he began commenting that this boy, Vaishnav Das, was able to play the kartals as he did because of his being a devotee in a previous life. Just quoting Sri Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami's definition, bhakti vashana. You get that determination by practicing in a previous life, or if you're just a beginner, you come in contact with devotees. And that association is so powerful that then you also play kartals. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that devotional service is something that you imbibe from another devotee. It's a subtle word, you imbibe. Just like we're all sitting here and God forbid if somebody has COVID, that next week there's 3 people here. So that's an analogy, but not a perfect. If someone comes and we have a kirtan leader like Kripa Moya, my favorite of all times, and he chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, then you want to be like him. You want to follow in the footsteps of advanced devotees. And sure enough, some months later, I wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and he wrote me back. He said, "Dear Bhakta Brian, I heard you're doing nice in devotional service, so my recommendation is that you continue following the regular principles, chant Hare Krishna, and always follow in the footsteps of advanced devotees. And if you do that in due course of time, I'll give you a diksha," which he did. So it's kind of a repetition, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sat Mahatma Sudurlabha. Krishna says in the Gita, after many, many lives, a devotee achieves perfection. That's Krishna speaking. Prabhupada would say sometimes, our Krishna. But essentially, we're Gaur Bhaktas, because Krishna comes in this age to give an appropriate process for us, which we can, jump the line, so to speak. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Shankupanga Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtan Prayar Yashantihi Shumedasha. The same Krishna that appeared and said Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadurlabha, he has appeared in the age of Kali. And he's brought the Mahamantra, Kali Kali Namurup, Krishna avatar, with him. And you can recognize him because, he's singing his own sweet holy names, Hare Krishna, and he's surrounded by loving devotees in congregational chanting. So Krishna is known as being very merciful, but really, in his form as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's even more merciful. And that was recognized by Rupa Goswami immediately. Mahaprabhu was on his way from Mayapur, or actually he was from Jagannath Puri. He's on his way from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan. He passed through Ramkeli, where Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis were living. They hadn't seen him yet. So the moment Rupa Goswami saw Mahaprabhu at Ramkeli, they were working for the Muslim government. When he first saw him, the words came from his heart. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prem Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goduse. You are the most merciful incarnation, meaning even more merciful than Krishna, because you're giving the topmost message, which is Braj Bhakti, the loving mood of the residents of Vrindavan. That's the topmost position one can ever achieve. To the people of Kali Yuga, what could be more amazing? So we're fortunate to be born in the age of Kali. Who wants to be born in the age of Kali? Prabhupada said the demigods are waiting in line on the heavenly planets to take birth in this movement, because it gives them the opportunity to go beyond liberation, to go on to Goloka Vrindavan and live an eternal life full of bliss and knowledges. So that's possible. And it's a repetition. Vasudeva Sarvam, thousands of lives, you can achieve it in one lifetime in Krishna consciousness. Where's that quote? Where's that authorized statement? I was reading The Harmonist. It's a magazine produced by the Gaudiya Math under the direction of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whose disappearance date is today. And I read that in one initiation lecture, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, I see no reason why all my disciples cannot achieve pure devotional service in one lifetime. So there it is. But of course, it's reciprocal. The opportunity is there. Chant, dance, take prasadam, serve the Sankirtan movement. If we do it with all our heart and soul, Atma-nivedana, and we fully surrender, it is possible. So therefore I say, Mahaprabhu is even more merciful than Krishna. But it is an ongoing process. And that's also described. How is it an ongoing process? That's described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 28th chapter, text 29. And I'll recite it here. Quote, sometimes the progress of imperfect transcendentalists is checked by attachment to family members, disciples, or others who are sent by envious demigods for that purpose. But on the strength of their accumulated advancement, bear in mind, accumulated advancement, bhakti vashana, such imperfect transcendentalists will resume their practice of yoga in the next life As a result, they will never again be trapped in the network of fruitive work. It gives us hope. The challenge is very great. Maya dakshani prakriti suyate chanam. This divine energy, even God says, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the modes of material nature, it's very difficult to overcome. Wow. If Krishna says that, what hope there is? The hope is surrender. And Krishna will, seeing us, he'll help us at every step. But I'm just a bhakta. Well, so's the little baby. The baby's just starting to walk, not running the Olympics, but it gives so much pleasure to the mother and father. Just see, like there's that famous photograph of Prabhupada at Sally Agrawal's house when he first came to America, and their little son, what was the name? Bridge. He took his first step, and Prabhupada's like, whoa, you see his big, whoa. So you don't have to worry. Even we're new devotees, Krishna's there to encourage us. So that was what Prabhupada said about Vaishnava. He said that he has practiced, Bhakti Vaishnava, he has practiced in a previous life. Therefore, he's taken to Krishna consciousness like a duck takes to water. Prabhupada didn't say that bit. And so we all wish Vaishnava Das to achieve that exalted goal in his very lifetime. Actually, he's a very nice devotee, Vaishnava Das. He's in his 40s, or I don't know, maybe early 50s, and he's married to one of my disciples. They have 2 children, and he's Bhakta devotee. So we're very happy for him. And this type of progress, this Bhakti Vaishnava, it creates a certain faith. If you practice Krishna consciousness, you gain faith and realization. It's an authorized process. It's not just some philosophical concept. The more you practice, the more you're convinced. And you get faith. You get that nam-ruchi, isn't it? I heard the kirtan coming in here. The whole building was shaking. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. You get taste. You get taste to hear. Shravanam, Kirtanam brings Krishna Smaranam, remembering of Krishna. It's a real process. It's a real process. So it's based on this faith. And the other day I was reading Madhurya Kandamini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he says, Tatra Bhakti Karina Pratamam Shraddha. He talks about faith. He said, there's 2 types of shraddha or faith that are required for a devotee to take up Krishna consciousness in earnest. Like, a real go-getter, up every morning, Hare Krishna, studying the Shastra, offering the prasadam, associating with devotees, on and on, year after year. He said there's 2 types of that type of faith that are required to take up devotional service and interests. Sacha svabha viki kenapi bhalad ut paditacha. Svabhakti viki means shraddha, faith, that comes from being a devotee in the last life. Like these girls. You don't have to convince them, you're not the body. Human form of life is meant for self-realization. The easiest and most sublime process is chanting Hare Krishna. So you do it. You don't have to convince them. They practically came out of the womb like that. Am I right? These girls just took to Krishna consciousness. They're very good teenagers. What do teenagers do? I'm not going to tell you. Go to school and go to the disco on Friday night. You see a teacher. But not these girls. So that's Bhakti Viki. This arises, he says, due to association with the sadhu in this life, or svabhaviki. Svabhaviki means that shraddha is gained from being a devotee in the previous life. So I think we can safely conclude that these young girls, their strong faith in the practice of Krishna consciousness is due in part to being devotees in their previous lives. And like Vaishnava Das, we wish them all success in achieving perfection in Krishna consciousness in this lifetime. Me, I had to take birth and, meet a devotee and then get enlivened. But this is something carrying. I started when I was 20. They started when they were, what some girl said the other day, her sister was just born. I said, how old's your sister? She said 0. You know, the mother gave birth the day before. I said, how old's your sister? 0. So, yeah, I was 0, but they came in with some credit there, so best of luck. And you could say that in this lifetime, because they're taking up, they're not yet perfect, that's our job as your spiritual mentors to help you achieve perfection. That journey in this lifetime begins in earnest with this initiation ceremony. It's like, you know, the rocket, it goes up into the atmosphere, but to go beyond the law of gravity, it needs a booster. And then it's in outer space floating. Right? Any of you are into space travel, you know, space thing. But to go beyond the law of gravity, then they make a booster. And then it goes, and then it's... So they're on their way, but they're not there yet. That's what I have to tell them. Not to, you're not there yet. What are you holding on to? Come on. Increase your determination. Chant more. That's the duty of the spiritual master. So this initiation is like a booster that can propel them beyond. And therefore, it's a great day. It's a great day for them individually. It's a great day for your community. You can be proud of your children. It's a great day for this great country of America. It's a great day for the world. Wait a minute, Maharaj. Like how, you know, it's not on the BBC or CNN. That's all about football now. So, how's it a great day? No, it's not an exaggeration. Because each and every Vaishnava in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has a double portfolio. A double portfolio. For he or she is simultaneously working on their own advancement every day, but Vaishnavas are very soft-hearted. They're not hard-hearted like those who perform too many austerities, like the yogis or the jnanis. Devotees are very soft-hearted, so they feel sad when they see people are bereft of Krishna consciousness, and they feel happy when they see people getting the opportunity for Krishna consciousness, book distribution, festivals, restaurants, temples. Like this is a devotee. So they're not only working, these girls will only work on their own devotion, but they will also, throughout their lives, be concerned about the deliverance of all humanity. These two things. And this is confirmed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. We wanted to speak a lot about him today, so we're just quoting him. What better way to glorify him? In his purports to Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he writes as follows. In the teachings of Sriman Mahaprabhu, I like how he addresses him, Sriman Mahaprabhu. In the teachings of Sriman Mahaprabhu, there are only two principal instructions. He's just summarizing, right? Boiling down the milk. In the teachings of Sriman Mahaprabhu, there are only two principal instructions. Develop a taste for chanting the holy names and display compassion for the fallen souls. So this is what we're telling our students today. Develop a taste. Namruchi, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare. And in your own way, throughout your lives, Krishna will give you the opportunity to share your good fortune. And that was Prabhupada's mood. Prabhupada is an eternal resident of Sri Vrindavan Dham. He came to this world. He didn't act in the same capacity he does in the spiritual world. We're not supposed to speculate what he is there. But one time a devotee said to Prabhupada, who are you in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, if I told you, you'd faint. So we'll leave it at that. But when he came to this world, what was he doing? He was very active in sharing his good fortune, or the residents of Vrindavan, their good fortune, with the people of Kali Yuga. So he's Acharya. We're meant to follow in his footsteps. Essentially, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, it's a missionary movement. You take away the missionary spirit and ISKCON will dry up. We don't even want to say that, but This is a missionary movement. We're meant to share with others in our own ways. Everyone has a way to do that. So, yes, once again, Mayuri, Omika, Gopika have taken fortunate births. But nevertheless, girls, like for all of us, you took birth in the material world. And for anyone and everyone who takes birth in this material world, Prabhupada summarized it up. Right? Eloquence is truth spoken concisely. Like Vedanta Sutra, it summarizes this vast Vedic knowledge in sutras or verses. So Prabhupada, he summarized this whole phantasmagoria of material existence. He said, it's problematic. It's problematic. That's mostly what it is. You know, we have a few moments, oh, that was fun. And what's the main problem with taking birth? Chitashahi dhruva matyur dhruvanam janmamritasya cha. For one who has taken birth, Krishna makes it very clear in Bhagavad Gita, he's sure to die. Oh, but it's not finished. After death, one takes birth again. Oh, but maybe it'll be different next time. I'll be born, wealthy, and and I'll become famous, and I'll be healthy up all the way to 90s, and first impressions are the most important. You want to understand something? Many times, first impressions are the most important. So, you come out of your mother's womb because you haven't learned to breathe oxygen. The doctor takes your little feet on your backside. Remember? No, I'm telling you. And the result is, welcome to the material world. It's our first impression, right? So life means birth, but we're also guaranteed death. It's like two sides of a coin. One is heads and one is tails, like in the World Cup. I don't know what a World Cup is, but the World Cup, it's a big cup, right? They flip the coin, and there's heads and tails. So one side's happy with that flip, and the other side's not happy because the advantage is to start, to make the first choice in the game. So life's like that. One side is happy. My father, to kind of perk things up in the house, there was a song in the 1940s. Everything's coming up roses, everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. And 10 minutes later, he was fighting with my mother. So life's like that, right? There's birth, there's a new beginning, there's a fresh start, there's hope and aspiration. This time I'll make it. But then suddenly dismay, disappointment, tragedy. Therefore, a devotee's always a little sober. Of course, we're happy. We're happy. We're happy. Someone told me the other day, I know you guys, you're the happy people. Really? One time a captain of an airplane said, I know you guys, you're the kitchen religion. So I had to say, this is the Hare Krishna movement. No, you're the happy people, he said. So we are happy, but we're not naive. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Even if we haven't experienced it, we take faith in Krishna's instructions. This world is temporary and full of suffering. And if what happened now is going to happen later, it's a question of time. So we're happy, but we're always a little sober. Sobriety. Like Chanaka Pandit says, Tyaja dujana samsargam, bhajasadu samagamam, kuru punya maho ratram, shmara nityam anityatam. It's one of my favorite verses. Give up the association of evil persons. Partake of the association of saintly persons. Perform pious deeds both day and night, and always remember the flickering nature of the material world. Wow. If you want to get a tattoo, do that one. It's more realistic. Don't get tattoos. Give up the association of evil people. Partake of the association of saintly persons. Perform pious deeds day and night. And always remember the flickering nature of this material world. And if you can't remember, you will remember after you pass 70 years of age. Yeah. because, my generation, we're meeting, we're always saying, how's your health? Well, sit down, I'll tell you. That's old age. So, but we're telling the youngsters, remember the flickering nature, because disease and death, it doesn't just come to old people. Sometimes it happens in the womb. I was in a hospital with meningitis when I was 5 with 7 other boys. And at that point, they didn't have the antibiotics or whatever they do to cure meningitis. So we were experiments. Each of us received a different drug to cure the meningitis. And I lived, and all the other 6 boys died. They gave me the right medicine. So these tragedies can come at any point. So we should all be wise souls, like they call it old souls. Even you're young, you can be an old soul. And if you don't realize it, then hear from Srila Prabhupada, read his books, he'll make it very clear. But take hope. However dismal is a good word, right? Dismal, like today it's dismal outside. It's snowing. And Kartamashi and Brajatandrika, my servants, they've never seen snow. Oh, it's snowing, this is wonderful. And then they walk out, boom, fall on the ground. So however dismal the situation can be, there's always hope in Krishna consciousness. Because it's a positive alternative. And Krishna makes it very clear in Bhagavad Gita that if you take up the process of Krishna consciousness, then you never have to take birth again. If somebody offers you that, you're not going to accept it? I mean, somebody offers you $1 billion, you'll take it, but this is worth more than all the wealth in the 3 worlds. Bhakti mam abhijananti, yavanyaschasmi tatvataha, tatomam tatvato jantva vishite tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am only through the process of devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, this takes, time, through such devotion, he can enter the kingdom of God. So, people are looking for the solution in science and technology and medicine. No. There's one key that opens the door of liberation and beyond liberation, the freedom to serve Krishna in his playground. Right? The spiritual world is called Vaikuntha. It literally means a place where there's no anxiety. But that's Prabhupada said that's the official kingdom of God, because there it's master-servant, which is fine. We're practicing that mode right now. It's the official kingdom of God. But Goloka Vrindavan, it's the playground of God. Krishna's playing with the boys, dancing with the girls, having fun with his parents. That's where we belong. Anything other than that is not natural. I want to eat, natural food and take natural medicine and, okay. But your real nature is a liberated soul living in Goloka. That's the most natural place you can be. And if you can imbibe that lifestyle, even in this world, you can be relatively free from lots of the miseries in this world, just to be a devotee. You don't have to take the new fad, the keto diet and this diet. Just take some prasad. If you need exercise, go to kirtan. If you're in anxiety, read Krishna book. Your mind will be enlivened. If you're sick, just say, yep, that's what it's all about, this world, so I'm getting out of here. So these girls have taken birth in this material world. We've praised you, and now we're chastising you. But this birth today, this is called second birth. This is something glorious, Falling down, down, down. Then ado shraddha, tata sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, nartana vitisya. That's the process outlined. Take to Krishna consciousness, take shelter of a spiritual master, get initiated, do service. You start going up. So this is a happy day, right? Like this. So what is that? A smile. This family worships Jagannath deities. Pita, he's Jagannath Bhakta. They have Jagannath deities. You look at Jagannath's smile, he's always smiling because he's seeing his devotees worshiping him. That means they're going back home, back to Godhead. So big smile, falling, Diksha, going up. Oh, happy days. This is a happy day for them. So what is the process for taking birth? In the material world, it means that the father, he plants the seed of life into the womb of his wife. But in Krishna consciousness, it begins this birth when the spiritual master awakens the seed of bhakti, bhakti lata bij, in the heart of his disciple at the moment of initiation. How does he do that? By sound. Shabda Brahma. Sound has great potency. So traditionally, at this initiation ceremony, the spiritual master, he speaks the mantra into the right ear of the disciple. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. And it wakes the disciple up. Prabhupada would often say, we're all in a sleeping condition. And there's different types of sleeping, right? There's a nap. Prabhupada called it a snap. We were in Paris one time. He said to us, I'm going to take a snap. So I said to my godbrother, what's a snap? He says, that's what Prabhupada calls a nap. Prabhupada would coin all these phrases, you know. That's very cute. So there's a nap, then there's deep sleep. You get 2 or 3 hours of deep sleep at night. Then there's comatose. You're just gone for the day, I'm so tired. Or there's some accident or something. But the deepest sleep is the complete ignorance that we're in. And that condition is addressed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jeev jago, Gora Chandra Bhole, Kota Nidra Hayomaya, Pisachera Kole. Hey, how long are you going to sleep in forgetfulness? How long are you going to be influenced by the witch, the wicked witch of the north? Oh my! the wicked witch of Maya. So we're all in that comatose condition until we're pure devotees. So how do you wake up a sleeping man? Well, you know, they get up. But to wake up someone who's forgotten Krishna, there's only one way. Harinam, Harinam, Harinama eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva, 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 gatiranyatha. So when you wake up, like, wow, let's talk about when you wake up. Wow, I'd like to wake up from that deep ignorance. Like, what am I going to see when you wake up? When you wake up in the morning, right? A materialistic person wakes up, and he, you know, then what does he see? The coffee cup, the porridge, the kids screaming, you know, get in the car, drive through the New York traffic. That's what you see when you wake up. Not devotees, but, you know. So when your eyes are opened, your third eye, they have the third eye. It's figurative. It's not this third eye. The third eye is wisdom to see things in the proper perspective, knowledge, divyagan. That's the third eye. So what do you see when you wake up with your third eye? That's described by Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai Sarvanadi Shuta Chitte Kariye Udai. Bengali is so sweet, actually. Prabhupada said one day people will learn Bengali to read Chaitanya Charitamrita in its original form, because it's such a sweet language. So, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Kariye Udai. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entity. It is not something that can be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, the living entity naturally awakens. Awaken to see things as they are. One time Prabhupada said he was installing the small Radha Krishna deities in Los Angeles. He said, if you worship these deities according to the rules and regulations I'm giving you, if you don't see them as brass, but you worship them according to how I'm teaching you, one day these deities will speak to you. My dear Lord, you're not a statue, you're directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. And the Brahmin boy said, you know, Shakshi, Gopal, you come with me, stand as my witness. And the deity said, yes. Then the boy said, but how are you going to come with me? So the Lord said, if I can talk, I can walk. And walk he did, all the way to Orissa. So we'll see things as they are. We can come face to face with Krishna. But it takes some time. Like when you wake up in the morning, right? At least me, I'm like, whoa, wow, put some water. Oh yeah. So it takes some time to achieve perfection. It doesn't happen overnight. Rupa Goswami says in Nectar Devotion, we have to practice patience. Patience is a virtue. We have to be patient. We have to be patient. Like some sects in India, the guru supposedly reveals to his disciple at the moment of initiation his swarup, his eternal relationship with Krishna. You're a gopi, you're a cowherd boy. That's not our process of initiation. Prabhupada didn't support that. One of my godbrothers in the 70s, he kind of went off track and left Prabhupada and went to a Babaji out at Radhakund, and that Babaji revealed to him who he was in Krishna Lila. So he lived next to me in one room at the center. And in the morning, I could hear him going, "Ga, ga, ga." And I went over, I said, "What is that?" He said, "I'm peacock." Of course, being a peacock it's wonderful. It's variety is the spice of life. Even Madhavinda Puri, it's mentioned. The great Madhavinda Puri, who introduced Braj Bhakti to the world a little bit before the appearance of Mahaprabhu. He gave the appetizer. In the spiritual world, he's a tree at Nidhivan, Kalpavriksha tree at Nidhivan. And because he's able to witness the most beautiful, loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he understood what is Braja Bhakti. And when he appeared in this world, he began introducing. It's described as only 3 personalities who can really understand and experience that Mahabhav. It's Madhavinda Puri, Radharani, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So don't think, oh, peacock. No. Don't think tree. All the living entities, whatever rasa they are in the spiritual world, it's said they're all working together to facilitate the Madhurya rasa, the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna in different ways, like that. So, but anyway, I said, chant Hare Krishna. Or, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's like when Ramakrishna is somebody in Bengal in the last century, it's said that he was getting old, so he just touched his disciple Vivekananda on the head and supposedly transferred all his spiritual powers to him, and he fainted. It's just a show. That's not our process. First there's purification, then there's revelation. Prabhupada summarized it. Work now, samadhi later. We're happy just to be the humble servants doing menial service because we know, like Confucius said, the longest journey begins with the first step. It's, if you're drowning in the ocean and someone picks you up 1 inch above the water, you're drowning, you're good. They'll ask you how you're doing. I'm good. You're not back in the boat, you're not back on land, but you're above the water, you're not drowning. So we're satisfied just to be the humble servants of a glorious master. We don't want to achieve anything greater than that. We're all servants of Prabhupada. We're serving his mission. We're content at any stage, but we know Prabhupada wants us to become pure devotees, not so that we become famous, but we become more valuable instruments in his seva of saving conditioned souls. That's what Prabhupada came for. So we're happy as a bug on a rug. So from that understanding, everything will come. We don't have to worry about a deliverance. One time Bhakti Churu Maharaj told me that he was in Prabhupada's room in 1974, and there was a devotee who asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, when you leave this world, how will I realize my spiritual identity? Because we understand that revelation comes through the spiritual master. So he said, how will I realize my eternal spiritual identity with Krishna? You won't be here to tell me. So Prabhupada paused and he kind of smiled and he said, don't worry about your swarup. When the time arrives, I will personally come and reveal your swarup. For now, just follow this authorized process. And wasn't it Narada Muni who said something very similar to the hunter Magrari? It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhulila. Narada Kahe, that Kahe means it's Bengali again, talking. Yadi Dhara Amara Bhachana Tabe Se Karite Pare Tomara Mochana. Quote, Narada Muni assured the hunter, Magrari, if you listen to my instructions, I shall find a way that you will be liberated. If you follow my instructions, I'll find a way for you to be liberated. We just serve Prabhupada's mission. It will be arranged for us by higher authority. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is the secret of success. If one has unflinching faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, the result is that all the conclusions of revealed scriptures will be open to such a person. And then my favorite part, Prabhupada continues, thus a pure devotee of Krishna can make the same demands that Narada Muni is making. He says, if you follow my instructions, I shall take responsibility for your liberation. Therefore we need Guru. Tavidi paripatena paripashana sevaya upadekshanti teginam ganinastar. We need a teacher who's got our back. If you follow my instructions, Prabhupada's words, I shall take responsibility. We don't have to worry about anything. It's just done. Just serve. Like the British, I think, isn't that? To fly to serve, the British Air Force. To fly to serve. Now because this mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, it's our treasure. It's our treasure. It's our most valued possession because we get freedom from lifetimes of sin. We get freedom from material desires. But ultimately we get what? O Govinda, feeling her separation. I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world of your absence. We get love. In this world, if you have everything a conditioned soul could want, but you don't have someone to share it with, you can't be happy. You'll be lonely and you'll be alone in your tower. But if you have nothing but the shirt on your back, but you have someone to love, just like Omika, she's now married. She's so peaceful and happy. Nice, handsome gentleman. They're working together so nicely. So you may have nothing. What does she have? She's just a college graduate, starting her work. But she has love. Mayuri has her dad and her mom. She's totally in love with her parents, and they are totally in love with her. Because love is, but that's all you really need. You just need love. But what type of love are we ultimately hankering for? Braj Bhakti. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord. He shall always remain so, even if he handles me roughly by not being before me. He's always my worshipable Lord unconditionally. That unconditional love that, Krishna comes first, me second, I don't care, whatever Krishna wants. Yogakshemam bahamyaham. To such a devotee, Krishna says, I protect what you have and I'll provide what you need. But we're not thinking like that. We're thinking, what can make Krishna happy? This is devotional service. So that type of love we want. With all due respect, we want to go beyond the Aishvarya Bhav. God is great and we are very small. That's how we're being trained by Prabhupada. We're not jumping ahead. God is great and we're very small. That's our understanding. But eventually we want our love to become so pure that, when the nature of bhakti is that Krishna becomes subservient to his devotees' love. He's the supreme controller, but bhakti controls the Lord. Radha doesn't do what Krishna wants. Krishna does what Radha says. A very sweet relationship. He's the supreme controller, but for the sake of rasa, he becomes subservient to his devotee. I'll tell you a little pastime in that connection. Madhu Mangal, Madhu Mangal, that little funny Brahmin boy? He's the son of Sandapani Muni. This is Braj Bhakti, okay? He said to Krishna one time, Krishna, you're a Vaishya, cowherd boy. You're a Vaishya. You take care of cows, but I'm a Brahmin. So you should show more respect to me. This is talking to God. This is very sweet. You should show some respect to me. So Krishna said, well, but you see, Madhu Mangal, more important than birth are one's deeds, one's activities. So, Madhu Mongol, look at my activities, and you'll see that they are simply extraordinary. So you must recognize that I'm a very great personality. So Madhu Mongol, the funny cowherd boy, he said, Krishna, just see how conceited you've become. Then Krishna said, but it's true, I've done so many great things. When I was 7 days old, Putana came to kill me, and I killed her. And then I killed Trinivarta, and you saw how I subdued Kaliya. And when I was only 7 years old, Jai Giri Govardhan, Jai Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jai 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 Giri Govardhan. I lifted a mountain. These are my super excellent activities. You have to respect me. You must recognize me for my activities, not my birth. So in joking fun, the Acharyas say, Madhu Mongol said, Krishna, as far as Putana is concerned, it's said that the demigods protect the children and old people. So we all know it was the demigods who actually killed Putana, and you want to take the credit? As for lifting Govardhan Hill, Nanda Baba, Balaram, and all the cowherd men, they were propping up Govardhan Hill with their sticks. I saw it, and you want to take the whole credit? And as far as subduing Kaliya, you were finished. You were practically dead. Everyone saw. Your bluish complexion had become even darker due to his poison, and you were in his coils. And seeing you, Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Mai, they all fainted. And seeing that, I took pity on them. And I chanted the mantra to subdue a serpent. I chanted, because that's possible actually. I chanted the mantra to subdue a serpent. And as a result, Kali became so frightened that he released you from his coils, and then you jumped up on his head and started dancing like you've done a great job. So here's the punchline. Krishna said, oh, I see. Please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Brajubhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, the playground of God ki. So this special love and friendship and parentalhood, Kantra Gumud, etc., the love of the Brajavasis, that's what this mantra can give us. We don't need to chant any other mantras. Maha means the benefit you get from any other mantras, with all due respect, is there in Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. I'll go 5 minutes more and then we'll give the names. So chanting means proper chanting, avoiding the 10 offenses, and the 11th offense. Wait a minute. Yes, there's an 11th offense. Srila Jiva Goswami has given 11 offense. It's to be inattentive while chanting the holy names. He actually writes, if you're spaced out, I'm just inattentive, modern terminology, if you're spaced out while chanting, you can inadvertently commit all the other 10 offenses just by being inattentive. So he warns us, don't what's the opposite of inattention? Focus. To focus. I often tell devotees, your mind wandering? Yes, Guru Maharaj. Well, chant louder. You're like, chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Jayapataka Maharaj, when he was a new devotee in Toronto, he was chanting so loud, the temple president had to tell him to go up on the nearest hill and chant his rounds there. And Prabhupada didn't disagree. Jayapataka Maharaj ki. So we have to focus. And in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a story of Avaduta Brahmana, who lived in the forest. And one day, the king of the land, his name was Maharaj Yadu, he was on an expedition, and he passed by this Avaduta Brahman. And Maharaj Yadu, he was so impressed that this Avaduta was sitting properly, sitting properly, and he was doing his job. I can just say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. So the king, Rajrishi, a Rajrishi means a saintly person who's sitting on the throne. The king's a saint, but he's also very expert at administration. So this was Maharaj Yadu. So he stopped, and he inquired. He asked spiritual questions from the sage. And one of his questions was related to how to focus on my spiritual practices. How to focus. We all know how the mind wanders. Whose mind wanders, be honest? Okay, whose mind doesn't wander? All right, there you go. So, the Avadhuta Brahman, he explained to Maharaj Yadu how to focus. And I'm going to finish today with this. How to focus. Because they're getting initiated into the Mahamantra, we want them to chant it properly to get the results. So the Avadhuta Brahman, he recounted to Maharaj Yadu what he learned how to focus from an arrow maker. What? How to focus. He said, I learned it from an arrow maker. You know, usually I'll go to Guruji or I'll go to this saintly friend. He learned how to focus from the arrow maker. How was that? He said this arrow maker, he made arrows by hand. He would take long slivers of wood and spend hours sanding them down and carving them, you know. And they had to be perfectly straight, otherwise they would fly off course. So one day when the arrow maker was absorbed in his trade, he was sitting in his little shop on the main thoroughway through the town. All of a sudden, the king, vive le roi, da-da-da-da-da-da, he's coming with his whole entourage through town. And his entourage had, you know, elephants and jugglers and dancing girls and acrobatics, making a huge commotion. Bugles, drums, flowers were flying everywhere. And he passed by the arrow maker's studio. So later that day, a friend of the arrow maker came and he asked, did you see him? Did you see him? So the arrow maker replied, did I see who? And his friend said, the king. And the arrow maker said, what king? The king, our king, his friend said. He was here today. He came through town. He passed right in front of your workshop. How could you have not seen him? So the arrow maker replied, I didn't see him. I didn't see anything. I only saw my arrows. I only saw my arrows. I was focusing on them, making them perfectly straight. So the Avadhuta Brahman, he said to Maharaj Yadu, who would inquire from him, in the same way, the transcendentalist must not be disturbed by whatever is happening around him, but he has to focus on his spiritual practices. And for us, Prabhus, that means Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Let us not be guilty of the 11th offense. I could give a lecture on the 10 offenses, but it's getting a little late. We won't do that. But at least let us not be attentive in our chanting. And then eventually have faith, have that shraddha, be convinced. Prabhupada says so, like the Christians say. Jesus loves me, this I know, because the Bible tells me so. So Prabhupada has said that he'll take responsibility for our liberation. If we practice our sadhana and we help him spread the Sankirtan, we don't have to worry about anything. The bhav will come. The devotion will come. Pleased with our own efforts to chant and pleased with our efforts to give others chanting, our spiritual masters will bless us with mercy. Param gopyam apishnikde, shishe bhatsyam iti shruti, tach churu yatam mahabhagya golokamahi mahaduna. The Vedas say that to a loyal disciple, one may speak the confidential secret. Therefore, O most fortunate one, now please hear the glories of Goloka. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam.